Okay. Good morning. What's your name?
Nugent.
Pardon me?
Michael Nugent.
Mr. Nugent, can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Nugent, my name is Michelle Paris. I'm one of the judges here in Bedford Municipal Court. Since you are the defendant, you do have the right to remain silent, because anything you do say can be held against you in a court of law. Our conversation this morning is being recorded. This is case number 23 CRA 1098. This happened in the city of Bedford on the offense date is 7/17/23. You were cited on 7/21/23. You're charged with murder pursuant to 2903.02 of the Ohio Revised Code. It's a felony of the first degree. If convicted, you're looking at the possibility of serving 15 years to a lifetime sentence, a fine up to $15,000. You'd be responsible for any court costs.
Move your tongue like that, oh you got me. Tell her come and ride on my face like a Bugatti. Sometimes I need a woman just to come caress my body. Sometimes I want a man just to hold me all night, yeah. Just to hold me all night. Oh, I need an out-invention, open-minded by invention. Vicarious, causing attention. I'm low on retention. I hope I get some peachy kisses. Gotta hit it like a billboard. Gotta spin it like a Rockefeller record. Uncharted waters like I'm white caps. Can't get off my drugs, need a relapse. All these buttons on this dashboard. Parachute ain't got no I'ma take you to the candy shop. Do it till you hit the spot. Tell her make it drop, make it hot. Do the shit a lot. Never gave a fuck about the spot. Make the
She was Cleveland's rising star, a rapper whose voice echoed the struggles and dreams of a city fighting to rise again. Breneisha Lightfoot, known to her fans as Ahlotta, had a fire in her soul that could light up any room. Her music pulsed with raw honesty, her community work saved lives, and her laughter was a lifeline for those who knew her. But in the summer of 2023, that light was snuffed out in the most brutal way imaginable. Her body was found discarded in the woods, left to decay like she was nothing. The man responsible? Someone she trusted? Someone who was supposed to love her? This is the story of Breneisha Lightfoot, a 23-year-old woman whose dreams were stolen by a monster hiding in plain sight. It's a story of love twisted into violence, of a community shattered, and of a justice system pushed to its limits. What happened in those final, terrifying moments of Breneisha's life? And how did a woman so full of promise end up as a victim in one of Cleveland's darkest tragedies? Welcome to Dark Truth Files, where we uncover the stories that haunt us and demand answers. Buckle up, because this one will break your heart and make you question everything. In July 2023, Cleveland was buzzing with the energy of summer. The city, nestled along the southern shore of Lake Erie, was a place of contrasts, gritty yet hopeful, scarred by decades of economic hardship but fighting for revival. Breneisha Lightfoot was a symbol of that hope. At just 23, she was making waves in Cleveland's rap scene, her stage name Ahlotta, a nod to her larger-than-life presence. Her lyrics spoke of struggle, resilience, and the unapologetic truth of growing up in urban America. But it wasn't just her music that made her special. Breneisha was a mentor, a friend, a sister, and a daughter who poured her heart into her community, teaching kids how to survive the violence that plagued their streets. But on July 18, 2023, everything changed. Breneisha's family hadn't heard from her in days. Her phone, usually buzzing with texts and calls, went silent. Her sister, staring at her phone screen, felt a knot of dread tighten in her stomach. This wasn't like Breneisha. Not during her birthday week, not ever. When police arrived at her apartment for a welfare check, they found a scene that chilled them to the bone. Signs of a violent struggle, blood on the floor, and Breneisha's phone, abandoned, like a silent witness to something unspeakable. Breneisha was gone. 3 days later, a call came in that shattered a community. Breneisha's body was found in Cleveland's Slavic Village, miles from her home, discarded in the woods like trash. The rising star, the woman who had dedicated her life to saving others, was gone. And the man responsible? her own boyfriend, Michael Roarty-Nugent, a predator with a history of violence who had slipped through the cracks of a flawed system.
Been 7 months since Bedford police found Breneisha Lightfoot's body in Cleveland's Slavic Village neighborhood. Friends of Lightfoot say they're happy justice is being served.
The young man got what he deserved.
But Sincere Shakur says he's still at a loss for words.
There's still a void. Anytime you lose somebody of that caliber of character and that young lady, it will forever haunt you.
On Wednesday, Judge Dina R. Calabrese found Lightfoot's boyfriend, Michael Roarty-Nugent, guilty of involuntary manslaughter, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse against a human corpse.
It's just a tragedy that it had to end like that, especially like that.
News 5 first started reporting on this story last July, and that's when we learned from Bedford Police Deputy Chief Rick Sutts that a concerned family member called the police on July 18th asking for a welfare check.
They hadn't heard from her. Her birthday was coming up that day, and it was very unusual for her to not make contact every day.
Soon, Bedford police became concerned too when they arrived at the apartment.
We found what appeared to be a crime scene with blood. No one was home at the residence, and that's where the investigation started.
Police arrested Roarty-Nugent and later found Lightfoot's body in Cleveland's Slavic Village neighborhood around East 64th and Francis Avenue that following Friday.
Breneisha's story isn't just another true crime case. It's a gut-punch reminder of how domestic violence can escalate to unimaginable tragedy. It's about a woman who gave everything to her community, only to have her life stolen by someone she trusted. It's about a justice system that sometimes fails to protect the vulnerable, and a community that refuses to let her death be in vain. As we dive into this case, we'll uncover the chilling details of what happened, the warning signs that were missed, and the legacy Breneisha left behind. We'll ask the tough questions. How did a man with a violent past get so close to her? And what can we do to stop this from happening again? Stick with us as we unravel the heartbreaking truth behind Breneisha Lightfoot's murder. If her story moves you, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to Dark Truth Files to help us spread awareness and demand justice. Let's honor Breneisha's memory by making sure her story is never forgotten. Breneisha Lightfoot was a hard-working young woman who carried the weight of her city's struggles and turned them into art, purpose, and hope. Born in 2000 in Cleveland, Ohio, Breneisha grew up in a close-knit family that valued loyalty, hard work, and community. Her parents, both products of Cleveland's working-class neighborhoods, instilled in her a fierce determination to rise above challenges. From a young age, Breneisha was different. She didn't just dream. She chased those dreams with everything she had. Her family remembers her as the glue that held them together. Her mother, Patricia, often spoke of Breneisha's infectious laugh, the kind that could make even the darkest days feel lighter. Her father, James, described her as fiercely protective, the kind of person who would give her last dollar to someone in need. Her siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, looked up to her as their role model, the one who always knew what to say when life got tough. Breneisha wasn't just a sister. She was a confidant, a cheerleader, and a warrior for those she loved. As a teenager, Breneisha discovered her passion for music. Cleveland's rap scene, raw and unfiltered, spoke to her soul. She started writing rhymes in her notebook, pouring her experiences into lyrics that captured the grit and hope of her city. By her late teens, she was performing under the stage name Ahlotta, a nod to her bold, unapologetic personality. Her music wasn't just about beats, it was about telling stories. Stories of struggle, of survival, of the kids she saw growing up in neighborhoods where violence was a daily reality. Her single, Curious, was gaining traction in 2023, streaming on platforms like Spotify and YouTube. "Tap in with your girl," she'd say in her social media posts, her voice brimming with excitement. Fans loved her authenticity, her ability to weave real-life struggles into rhymes that resonated. She wasn't just a rapper. She was a storyteller, giving voice to those who felt unheard. But Breneisha's impact went far beyond the microphone. What set Breneisha apart was her commitment to her community. Cleveland, with its history of economic decline and above-average crime rates, was a city that demanded resilience. Breneisha answered that call by joining the Wolfpack Gunshot Response Team, a grassroots organization dedicated to teaching young people life-saving skills. Gun violence was a grim reality in her neighborhood, and Breneisha refused to stand by while kids she knew became statistics. The Wolfpack wasn't just a program, it was a lifeline. Breneisha worked directly with kids, some as young as 12, teaching them how to respond to emergencies like gunshot wounds, knife injuries, or even bomb blasts. She wasn't just an instructor, she was a mentor who understood their world. She'd walk the same streets, face the same fears. When she spoke, they listened. One young man she mentored later said, "Breneisha saved my life, not just by teaching me how to stop a bleed, but by showing me someone cared if I lived or died." Her work with the Wolfpack was relentless. She'd spend hours with these kids, not just during training, but whenever they needed her. If a teen called her at midnight, scared or in trouble, Breneisha answered. If someone needed a ride to escape a dangerous situation, she'd drop everything to help. Her friends described her as having an incredible gift for seeing potential in people others had written off. She believed everyone deserved a chance, no matter their past. Breneisha's warmth wasn't reserved for the kids she mentored. She was the friend who could make you laugh on your worst day, the sister who'd fight for you when you couldn't fight for yourself. Her family described her as someone who never did anything halfway, whether it was writing a new song, planning a community event, or helping a friend through a crisis. Breneisha gave it her all. Her home was a hub of activity, friends stopping by, music playing, laughter echoing through the walls. But that warmth, that openness, also made her vulnerable. Breneisha's loyalty meant she sometimes trusted people who didn't deserve it. Friends later admitted they'd seen red flags in her relationship with Roarty-Nugent, the man who would become her killer. But Breneisha, ever the optimist, believed in second chances. She saw the good in people, even when it wasn't there. As we move into the next chapter of this story, we'll reconstruct the days leading up to Breneisha's disappearance, piecing together the moments that led to tragedy. Her life was a testament to the power of love and community, but it was also a reminder that even the brightest lights can be dimmed by darkness. July 2023 was supposed to be a time of joy for Breneisha Lightfoot. Her 23rd birthday was just days away, and like every year, she was planning to celebrate with the people she loved most. Her apartment in Bedford, a suburb of Cleveland, was a revolving door of friends and family in the days leading up to July 15th. Breneisha was in high spirits, posting on social media about her music and making plans for her birthday party. Her sister Tasha later recalled their last conversation. She was so excited, she kept talking about this new song she was working on and how she wanted to do something big for the Wolfpack kids. On July 15th, Breneisha's birthday arrived. Friends and family gathered to celebrate, filling her apartment with laughter, music, and good food. Photos from that day show her glowing, her smile wide, her eyes sparkling as she posed with her siblings and friends. It was the kind of day that felt perfect, the kind you hold on to in your memory forever. But as the celebration wound down, something shifted. Breneisha, who was always connected, always reachable, started to fade from view. By July 16th, Breneisha's family noticed something was off. She wasn't returning calls or texts, which was unheard of for her. Tasha tried calling multiple times, each call ringing once, twice, then going straight to voicemail. "I knew something was wrong," Tasha later said. Breneisha never went silent, especially not after her birthday. Friends who texted her got no response. Her social media, usually a flurry of updates, went dark. The silence was deafening. At first, her family tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was exhausted from the party. Maybe she was working on a new track or helping a kid from the Wolfpack. But as the hours stretched into a full day, then two, the worry turned into panic. Breneisha's cousin Marcus, called mutual friends, hoping someone had heard from her. The Wolfpack team confirmed she hadn't shown up for a scheduled training session. By July 17th, the fear was palpable. This wasn't Breneisha. She didn't vanish. On July 18th, the family couldn't wait any longer. Tasha made the call to Bedford police, her voice trembling as she requested a welfare check. "She's not answering, and that's not like her," she told the dispatcher. "Her birthday was 3 days ago, and no one's heard from her since." The police, accustomed to routine welfare checks, assured her they'd look into it, but nothing could have prepared them for what they found. When officers entered Breneisha's apartment, the air felt heavy. The living room was in disarray. Furniture shifted, a lamp knocked over, papers scattered on the floor. Bloodstains marked the carpet. Breneisha's phone sat on the coffee table, its screen dark, notifications piling up. The officer's heart sank. This wasn't a case of someone needing space. This was a crime scene. They searched every inch of the apartment, closets, bathroom, bedroom, hoping to find Breneisha safe. But she was gone. The signs of a struggle told a story of violence, but without Breneisha, the police were left with more questions than answers. Who had been in her apartment? What had happened in those final moments? And where was she now? They searched every inch of the apartment, closets, bathroom, bedroom, hoping to find Breneisha safe. But she was gone. The signs of a struggle told a story of violence, but without Breneisha, the police were left with more questions than answers. Who had been in her apartment? What had happened in those final moments? And where was she now? The Bedford police launched an immediate investigation. They canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking neighbors if they'd seen or heard anything unusual. Alerts went out to other law enforcement agencies, and the community rallied. Friends, family, and Wolfpack members joined the search, posting flyers with Breneisha's photo and pleading for information. The kids she'd mentored walked the streets, calling her name, refusing to believe she was gone. For 3 agonizing days, hope hung by a thread. Then, on the morning of July 21st, a call came in that broke every heart in Cleveland. A jogger in Slavic Village, a neighborhood miles from Breneisha's apartment, had stumbled across a body in a wooded area. Police arrived, their faces grim as they confirmed the worst. It was Breneisha Lightfoot. Her body, discarded and left to decay, told a story of unimaginable cruelty. The news hit like a tidal wave. Tasha collapsed, sobbing, as her mother held her. Friends gathered in stunned silence, unable to process the loss. The kids from the Wolfpack cried openly, their mentor, the woman who taught them how to save lives, now a victim herself. Cleveland mourned a daughter, a sister, a star whose light had been extinguished too soon. As police stood over Breneisha's body in Slavic Village, one question burned in their minds. Who could do this to her? The evidence in her apartment, blood, signs of a struggle, her abandoned phone, pointed to a targeted attack. This wasn't random. Someone had wanted Breneisha dead, and the investigation quickly zeroed in on the person closest to her. Her boyfriend, Michael Roarty-Nugent. Michael Roarty-Nugent wasn't a stranger to law enforcement. At 28, he had a rap sheet that told a troubling story. Domestic violence charges, drug offenses, and a pattern of aggressive behavior painted a picture of a man who lived on the edge of violence. Friends of Breneisha later told police that her relationship with Nugent had been rocky from the start. He wasn't like her usual crowd, one friend said. She saw something in him, but we all saw the red flags. Breneisha and Nugent's relationship was complex. Friends described it as turbulent, marked by Nugent's controlling behavior and flashes of anger. Breneisha, ever the optimist, believed she could help him change. She'd confided in a close friend that Nugent had a rough past, but insisted he was trying to be better. Her loyalty, her belief in second chances, kept her tied to him, even as those around her grew uneasy. Police learned that Nugent had been in Breneisha's apartment in the days leading up to her disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing him there on July 15th, the night of her birthday. Had an argument spiraled out of control? Was this the culmination of a pattern of abuse that had been building for weeks? Detectives dug into Nugent's past, uncovering a history of violence against women. Domestic violence charges from previous relationships showed a man who couldn't control his rage, especially when he felt challenged or rejected. What drove Michael Roarty-Nugent to kill Breneisha? Prosecutors later argued that it was a lethal combination of control and jealousy. Breneisha's rising success as Ahlotta, her growing influence in the community, and her independence may have threatened Nugent's fragile ego. Friends noted that he often seemed resentful of her achievements, making snide comments about her music or her work with the wolf pack. He wanted her to himself, one friend recalled. He didn't like sharing her with the world. But there was another layer to the motive. Domestic violence's deadly escalation. Nugent's history showed a pattern of controlling behavior that often turned physical. Breneisha, with her fierce independence, wasn't the type to be controlled. If she stood up to him, if she tried to end the relationship, it could have triggered the rage that led to her death. The blood in her apartment, the signs of a struggle, suggested a violent confrontation that ended in tragedy. When police went to question Nugent, he was gone. His known addresses were empty, his phone disconnected. Friends and associates claimed they hadn't seen him since Breneisha's disappearance. His vanishing act was a red flag. Innocent people don't run. Detectives launched a manhunt, spreading alerts across Ohio and beyond. Was Nugent hiding in a cheap motel? Had he fled to another state? The community's outrage grew as they learned about his violent past. How had a man like this gotten so close to someone like Breneisha? As the investigation deepened, other theories emerged. Could someone else have been involved? A jealous rival in the rap scene? A random act of violence tied to Cleveland's crime rates? But the evidence kept pointing back to Nugent. His history, his connection to Breneisha, and his flight from justice made him the prime suspect. The question wasn't just who killed Breneisha. It was why the system had failed to stop a man like Nugent before it was too late. For 3 agonizing days, Cleveland held its breath as the search for Breneisha Lightfoot turned into a hunt for her killer. But the investigation was about to take a dramatic turn. A tip came in. A sighting of Michael Roarty-Nugent in a neighboring state. Acting on the lead, police moved swiftly, apprehending Nugent in a rundown motel just across the Ohio border. His arrest was a turning point, but it was only the beginning of uncovering the truth. Back in Cleveland, forensic teams were piecing together the puzzle of Breneisha's final moments. The blood in her apartment matched her DNA, confirming the violence that had taken place. Trace evidence, fibers, fingerprints, linked Nugent to the scene. His phone records showed he'd been in contact with Breneisha on July 15th, and cell tower data placed him near her apartment that night. The prosecution was building an airtight case, but the most damning evidence was yet to come. Investigators discovered that Nugent had attempted to cover his tracks. He'd tampered with evidence in the apartment, trying to clean up the blood and dispose of incriminating items. But he wasn't thorough enough. A discarded piece of clothing, found in a dumpster near Slavic Village, bore traces of Breneisha's blood and Nugent's DNA. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a calculated attempt to erase his guilt. As news of Nugent's arrest spread, Cleveland's anger boiled over. Social media exploded with tributes to Breneisha and calls for justice, with fans and community members sharing stories of her kindness and impact. But there was also outrage at the system that had allowed Nugent, with his history of violence, to remain free. Activists pointed to his prior domestic violence charges, questioning why he hadn't been monitored more closely. Breneisha's death became a rallying cry for reform. In early 2024, Michael Roarty-Nugent faced trial. The courtroom was packed with Breneisha's family, friends, and supporters, their presence a testament to her impact. Prosecutors laid out a chilling narrative. Nugent, consumed by jealousy and control, had attacked Breneisha in her apartment, likely after an argument escalated. He'd killed her, then disposed of her body in Slavic Village, hoping to erase his crime. The charges, involuntary manslaughter, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of a corpse reflected the brutality of his actions. The defense tried to cast doubt, suggesting Breneisha's death could have been an accident or the work of another suspect. But the evidence was overwhelming. Nugent's flight from Cleveland, his criminal history, and the forensic links were undeniable. The jury deliberated for just hours before delivering their verdict, guilty on all counts. On a cold morning in 2024, Judge Dina Ark Calibri sentenced Michael Roarty-Nugent to 23 to 28 and a half years in prison at Lorraine Correctional Institution. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow. For Breneisha's family, it was justice, but it could never bring her back. Her sister Tasha spoke outside the courthouse. "We lost our light, but we'll keep fighting in her name." As of June 2025, Michael Roarty-Nugent remains behind bars, serving his sentence for the murder of Breneisha Lightfoot. The case, though closed in the eyes of the law, continues to resonate in Cleveland and beyond. Breneisha's death was a wake-up call, exposing the deadly consequences of domestic violence and the gaps in a system that failed to protect her. But her story didn't end in tragedy. It sparked a movement. The Wolfpack Gunshot Response Team has expanded its programs, inspired by Breneisha's passion. They've launched new initiatives in schools, teaching conflict resolution and emergency response. Local businesses and churches have rallied, creating safe spaces for youth and funding programs in Breneisha's name. Her mother, Patricia, has become a vocal advocate against gun violence, speaking at community events with a strength she draws from her daughter's memory. Cleveland has changed since Breneisha's death. Neighbors who once kept to themselves now work together to make their streets safer. A mentoring program, started by Breneisha's friends, helps middle schoolers stay on the right path, echoing her belief in second chances. Her music, still streaming on platforms like Spotify, keeps her voice alive, inspiring fans to carry her message of resilience and hope. But the pain remains. Breneisha's family still grieves, their lives forever altered. Her mother cries when she sees Breneisha's favorite foods at the store. Her father still expects to hear her voice. Yet, they find solace in the community's response, knowing Breneisha's legacy is bigger than her death. Breneisha's story is a stark reminder of the warning signs we can't ignore. Michael Roarty-Nugent's history of violence should have been a red flag, yet he was free to enter Breneisha's life. Her death highlights the need for stronger protections for domestic violence victims, better monitoring of repeat offenders, and more support for those in dangerous relationships. It's a call to action for all of us to recognize the signs: controlling behavior, jealousy, verbal abuse, and speak up even when it's hard. What did Breneisha Lightfoot's story teach you? Have you ever seen warning signs of domestic violence in someone you know? How can we better protect those in dangerous relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice could help someone find the courage to seek help or spark change in your community. Breneisha Lightfoot was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a mentor, and a star whose light still shines in Cleveland. Her music lives on, her legacy grows, and her community fights in her name. Let's honor her by working for a world where no one else has to suffer like she did. Like, share, and subscribe to Dark Truth Files to keep these stories alive and demand justice for those we've lost.